right, it's the Christmas season, and naturally we're being bombarded with many versions of the Dickens Christmas Carol, and in particular the one that caught my attention this year is Ann Coulter, the reactionary harpy, who is arguing that Scrooge is something she calls a liberal. Scrooge was a liberal. Well, ironically, there is something to it. Scrooge represents what you can call classical 19th century liberalism of the British type, and this is the doctrine of Bentham, and indeed of David Ricardo, and indeed of John Stuart Mill and his father James Mill. And the idea here is that you've got to have the free market. In other words, the 19th century liberal is an Austrian free market fanatic. And that's what Scrooge is. But in the terms of modern terms, what Ann Coulter, the reactionary harpy, is trying to argue is that he's a bleeding heart liberal. Well, no, he's not a bleeding heart liberal. Anyway, these terms obscure more than they reveal. Let's go right to the text now. So here we are with Christmas Carol by Dickens. What kind of a person is Scrooge, right? He's essentially in the my money, and the public be damned camp. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, this Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck out generous fire, secret and self-contained and solitary as an oyster. I am thinking of David Koch, David Koch. I'm thinking of George Soros. I'm thinking of Bill Gates. I'm thinking of the Warren Buffetts. I'm thinking of the U.S. ruling class, Rupert Murdoch, and the people at the various foundations. Anyway, soon, of course, we get the people coming in. They're trying to do a little charity subscription, and we get the famous question, what are you doing for your fellow man? At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than unusually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute who suffer greatly at the present time. Many thousands are in want of common necessities. Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts, sir. That's for you, Senator DeMint. That's for you, Senator Coburn. And for you, you assorted reactionaries coming in on the Tea Party ticket. And, of course, for you, Wall Street Democrats like Obama, who have just shafted the 99ers in your tax deal. So we get then, are there no prisons? Asked Scrooge. Plenty of prisons, said the gentleman, laying down his pen again. And the union workhouses? Demanded Scrooge. Are they still in operation? They are, still, returned the gentleman. I wish I could say they were not. The treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor then, said Scrooge. Both very busy, sir. I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop them in their useful course. I'm very glad to hear them. The charitable guy comes on and says, a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it is a time of all others when want is most keenly felt and abundance rejoices. What shall I put you down for? Nothing, replied Scrooge. You wish to be anonymous. I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, gentlemen, says Scrooge, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. Let's cut off the unemployment benefits, huh, Senator DeMint? I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there. Many can't go there, and many would rather die. And here we have then the doctrine in its most extreme form. If they would rather die, said Scrooge, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population. And that's Scrooge. So here you see it's essentially a combination of right-wing and left-wing, because it's the right-wing monetarism of David Ricardo plus the allegedly left-wing social engineering of Jeremy Bentham plus the doctrine of Malthus, who at that time was considered a raving reactionary right-winger, but today would be considered a leftist. And indeed Darwin, in those days considered a right-winger by many, but today considered a leftist. And that's the situation that we have. Anyway, to call this character, Scrooge, a liberal in the modern sense, I think very, very misleading. He's not a government official, and he doesn't want to pay for anything. He has really no interest in anything except his desire not to pay for it. And when he dies, in this age of fraud closures, he's taken by the ghost of Christmas Yet to Come to see all the people who are responding to his own death. Scrooge now dead, and we find a guy who has borrowed money from Scrooge and is about to be sent to debtor's prison. This is something Dickens wrote about in, I believe, Nicholas Nickleby is the one that's about debtor's prison, or transported to Australia as a convict. So Scrooge dies, and with Scrooge and the ghost of Christmas Yet to Come at the window, the victim in this case, the guy who took a payday loan or a car title loan equivalent from Scrooge, comes in and says, there is hope. He's dead. He is past relenting. He's dead. And his wife, even though she's a very nice person, is so thankful that she can't hide it. And the little children understand that the parents have taken an optimistic turn. So before, she says then, to whom will our debt be transferred? I don't know. This is before the age of collateralized debt obligations. To whom will our debt be transferred? I don't know, but before that time we shall be ready with the money, and even though we were not, it would be a bad fortune indeed to find so merciless a creditor in his successor. We may sleep tonight with lighter hearts, Caroline, and the little children understand it. So the one emotional reaction to the death of Scrooge is that this family feels hope and pleasure and relief that he's gone, and that's going to mean an administrative delay, a surcease in the foreclosure procedures, essentially, putting the guy into debtor's prison. So Scrooge was an Austrian. Scrooge was a member of the free market school. He's a follower of David Ricardo, Jeremy Bentham, Parson Thomas Malthus, and indeed of Charles Darwin. If they want to die, they better do it and decrease the surplus population. Now, Dickens, of course, is a romantic anti-capitalist. He has no idea of what to do about this. And as his career goes on, the fact that he has no real solutions epistemologically or politically, that becomes a complicating factor for him, and he becomes more and more pessimistic. But we don't want to do that. Now, equivalents of this today. Here in Washington in the past week or so, we had at the Center for American Progress, right, the Clinton-Obama think tank, we had a debate about the ACOs, the Accountability Care Organizations, under the new Obama health plan. And in the course of this discussion, there's a lot of talk about IMAC, the Medical Advisory Council, and MedPAC, that is the Medical Payment Advisory Council, and how IMAC and MedPAC are going to be instrumental in creating ACOs, accountable care organizations, to drive down costs. Now, you can see what it is. This is Scrooge. This is what we have to call a death panel. The ACOs with IMAC and MedPAC are a death panel. And that's what Obama has done. Gutted Medicare and now begun the process of destroying Social Security. So lots of Scrooges infest our world, and we'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.